Dominant teams in the league over the last 2 years, and the Clark will control the tip. Here's Clark already working off ball, gets the pass from Hull. Engstler will defend her, the slip to Boston, the finish at the cup. Double figures. Hull from outside, her first miss against the Fire this season. Clark, offensive rebound, puts it in and sticks the jumper. Boston, the handoff to Clark. Clark corralled by two. Clark, another jumper off the heel, tapped alive by Boston. Clark in the paint. Retreats the dribble. Mitchell, what a cut, what a delivery from Clark. Clark, eyes down the floor, up ahead, Boston, great catch. The vision from Clark is into the rim, and Indiana sprints out to an 8-2 lead.
Tell me I'm lying, bro. Tell me this is clickbait. People like to say John the clickbaiter. Tell me I'm lying that it ain't no conspiracy. You can't tell me on God's green earth that there is no conspiracy against Caitlin Clark.
Caitlin Clark made WNBA history, and somehow that was not the biggest story of the night, because by the time the Indiana Fever walked off the floor after a brutal 90-88 loss to the Golden State Valkyries, nobody was talking like this was just another close game. They were talking about the refs.
Gotta be getting to Caitlin. But what's more importantly is these damn WNBA referees doing what they do. Altering the damn game. I mean, flopping is all over the place.
They were talking about missed calls. They were talking about Aaliyah Boston sitting at the post-game press conference, clearly furious, saying the Valkyries sold the contact and the refs bought it.
So the Indiana Fever were victims of the dark arts today. They were victims of the dark arts, or yesterday, by the Golden State Valkyries. And it is a frustrating one, but it sometimes works. It sometimes works. And obviously Aaliyah Boston was not happy. In her post-game press conference, she basically as much as said, yeah, well, they tricked the refs. Fair play to them, they tricked the refs. Which that is the case.
And they were talking about Caitlin Clark taking contact all night, getting elbowed in the face late, and still watching the whistle disappear when Indiana needed it most.
This right here is another video reaction of the Indiana Fever defense. Somebody said, my hat's off to you, Stephanie White. It takes an utter genius to coach this bad, no talents, no timeouts left. The end of the fourth quarter, didn't get teed up, protests, shady refs, nothing. Let's watch.
Clark to Aaliyah Boston. And then Monique Billings, I haven't seen her do one thing all season. What a letdown. Traveled. And then Caitlin Clark gets the offensive rebound, put back, splashes a jumper. Finds Kelsey Mitchell. We're doing great. Fast break offense, Caitlin Clark to Aaliyah Boston. I'm loving it, 8-2. Then they call 6 fouls in a row. Monique Billings, there was one. Look at this, she touches the ball for 1 second. Where's the foul? And then Caitlin Clark, if anything, she got elbowed. There's Caitlin Clark's first foul. Somebody tell me where's the foul. There was 2. Watch this. Hines Allen, hands straight up. There's 3 in a row. Raven Johnson, there's 4 fouls consecutively. And then watch Hines Allen.
Now, you guys remember when I first started Alive? Those of you guys who's been watching Alive since the beginning.
This was supposed to be Caitlin Clark's record night. Instead, it turned into one of the most controversial Fever losses of the season. And when you watch how this game ended, it is not hard to understand why Fever fans are saying the same thing. The refs stole this one. Because Clark still made history, she became the fastest player in WNBA history to reach 500 career assists.
Tonight, we gonna talk about it, man, in an iconic fashion. She ended up making her 500 assists to Sophie Cunningham, but the referees is still in the show. Just ultimately still in the show. Whatever it was today is shit on Caitlin Clark Day. I don't know. That's what I'm feeling like. But overall, team stats is horrible. Shout out to Raven Johnson. She showed up. Kelsey Mitchell don't never pass the damn ball. I mean, they was beating her ball out of the damn arena. Every time she got the ball, they just knew she was finna shoot the ball. Like, why? They know you finna shoot it. Pass the damn ball, Kelsey. I mean, my goodness. 24 fouls called on the fucking Fever tonight. Excuse my language, bro. 19 calls were now 20 on Golden State. I'm furious right now, bro, because that's how bad this game has been. Stephanie White, put Caitlin on the ball. Stephanie White, put Caitlin off the ball. Like, damn, Stephanie, make up your mind. Did Caitlin Clark set majority of the damn third quarter? This was just buffoonery. Just buffoonery, bro.
That is not a normal milestone. That is superstar territory. That is league-changing territory. That is the kind of record that should have been the headline everywhere. But the game around that moment was a mess. Golden State did not just guard Clark. They chased her, bumped her, crowded her, grabbed at her, and made every single catch feel like a fight. And to be clear, the Valkyries deserve credit for the defensive pressure. They came in with a plan. They knew Clark could shoot from anywhere. They knew she could break a defense with one pass, so they threw bodies at her all night. But there is a difference between physical defense and getting away with contact because the officials refused to call it both ways. And that is where this game went off the rails. Aaliyah Boston was the first major warning sign.
That is what they did. Their goal was, we are going to do all of the dark arts. We're going to shove on every rebound. If you are boxing her out, we're going to push on every rebound. We're going to hand check on every possession. We're going to be extra physical. It was one of these things where they came out in this game and was like, we are going to make the referees have to ref the game. And the referees did not ref the game. And the Fever were soft. I cannot stress it enough. The Fever were soft. But, big but, Aaliyah Boston stays in this game, they might win. Like, Amihar is literally she just flopped. She flopped the entire game. It was the most shameless thing I've ever seen. So Aaliyah gets called for that. And then Amihar, like, Aaliyah doesn't go near her here. Amihar just, like, flops. This is just fighting for post position. Veronica Burton's there laughing. She's there laughing. Like, that's another flop. And this is even the worst of them. Like, Amihar might as well just be known as the fish from now on. That is her nickname. Because this is the most ridiculous one I've ever seen.
Boston finished with 13 points and 6 rebounds, but that box score does not tell the real story. She never got to settle into the game because the whistles followed her from the start. Every time Boston tried to establish position, every time she tried to use her size, every time she tried to play through contact, the refs seemed ready to call her for an offensive foul. And after the game, Boston did not hide how she felt. She basically said it was hard to figure out how the refs were calling the game because defenders were getting charge calls when they were not even in legal position.
Yeah, Aaliyah, you had those 2 early fouls and had to sit for most of the first half. How does that affect your flow and your speed?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't even able to get into a flow. I mean, I played the second half. I think it's super hard to try and figure out and understand how the refs are calling it. I think it's super hard to get charge fouls when I don't think anyone's in legal position. I mean, shout out to the Valks. I mean, they did a great job selling it, and the refs bought it, to be honest, so good for them.
That is not just frustration. That is a player saying the standard made no sense. And that mattered because Boston is one of the few players on Indiana's roster who can punish teams inside. When she is on the floor, defenders have to respect the paint. When she is stuck on the bench in foul trouble, everything becomes harder for Clark. Golden State knew that. Once Boston was limited, they could crowd Clark even more. They could pack the passing lanes. They could sit on Indiana's guards. They could make every possession feel rushed. And that is exactly what happened. Clark still fought through it. She finished with 16 points, 6 assists, 3 steals, and a perfect 8 for 8 from the free throw line. But the flow was gone. The rhythm was gone. The space was gone. And yet, despite all of that, Indiana still had a real chance to win. That is what makes the final minutes so painful, because this was not a blowout where fans are blaming the refs just to cope. This was a 2-point game. 2 points. One whistle changes everything. One correct call changes the entire ending. And the call everyone is talking about came late, when Veronica Burton made contact with Clark's face on an inbounds play. The Fever were right there. The game was still alive. The moment was huge. And Clark took contact high. That is the kind of play that should get reviewed seriously.
10 feet and Caitlin Clark would have probably got a turnover and a foul. And then they called this a foul on Caitlin after they just did 2 offensive fouls they didn't call. And then look at this. She slaps down on Hines Allen's arms. Look at that. Look at her right arm. You could clearly see her grab that right arm. Look at that. She was holding it and it flops up. Look at this late call. It took until Aaliyah Boston had the rebound for this stupid ref to call this thing a foul, which wasn't even a foul. This is crazy. And then Aaliyah Boston hits the 3 ball, and then Raven Johnson brings it within 2 with 4 minutes left. Kelsey Mitchell with the reverse layup, and we're in this ball game. Caitlin Clark comes and splashes a 3. We're down by 1. Aaliyah Boston with like a fadeaway puts us up by 1. Like I said, Lexi Ho with the basket, and we got this. But then what did the refs do? Call another foul on nothing. Like, it's crazy. And then look at this. Lexi gets pushed in the back on the missed free throw. And they don't call that one either. And then Caitlin Clark, Fever down by 3, gets elbowed in the nose. So they get the ball back. Caitlin Clark finds Sophie Cunningham, who gets a basket. And we're back in this ball game. And we had a chance to tie it right here. And then one more chance to tie it. And Aaliyah Boston comes up. It was just a really tough loss. But we are not where we need to be yet. Probably played our worst game of the season. Refs were horrible. And we lost by 2.
That is the kind of play where the league's own standard on contact to the head or face should matter. That is the kind of play where Indiana could have ended up with free throws and the ball in a one-possession game. Instead, nothing. No flagrant, no real punishment, no moment where the refs stepped in and protected the player who had been getting hit, grabbed, and pressured all night. And that is why fans exploded, because earlier in the same game, Caitlin Clark was hit with a flagrant for a screen. So when the officials can find a flagrant on Clark, but cannot find one when Clark takes contact to the face, people are obviously going to ask questions.
And again, this is a flagrant foul. I actually don't care. I don't care what anyone says. You cannot elbow somebody in the face. It looked worse. Like, you cannot elbow somebody in the face. You can't. That is a flagrant foul. That is a flagrant. You cannot. It is an unlucky flagrant, but you cannot elbow somebody in the face. And you know if that was a Fever player, it would be called. Because she gets the first, Veronica Burton had already gotten Caitlin Clark. She had already fouled Caitlin Clark. Then Caitlin kind of steps into her and she gets her. You cannot do this. You cannot get someone an elbow to the face. There's no such thing as incidental elbows to the face. That is a flagrant or a technical foul or something.
That is not just a bad look. That is the exact kind of inconsistency that makes fans say the game looked rigged. And the Fever still almost survived it. Raven Johnson gave Indiana a massive lift off the bench. She scored 16 points on 7 of 10 shooting. And honestly, without her, this game probably gets away from Indiana much earlier. She brought pace. She brought energy. She attacked the defense. And on a night where so many of Indiana's main options looked stuck, Johnson looked fearless. Sophie Cunningham also gave the Fever important minutes and knocked down the shot that turned Clark's pass into the record-breaking assist. That should have been the moment. Clark to Cunningham, 500 career assists, fastest in WNBA history. A historic pass on a night where the Fever were fighting through everything. But instead of becoming the celebration, it became the setup for the outrage. Because Indiana still lost, and yes, Stephanie White deserves some heat too. The Fever's late-game offense was rough. There were possessions where Clark was not used enough. There were moments where Indiana seemed to forget that their best creator, their best shooter, and their biggest pressure point was standing right there. On one key late possession, Clark was open. The Fever went elsewhere. The result failed. That cannot happen. when Caitlin Clark has already made history, when the game is hanging by a thread, and when the defense is terrified of her, you have to make the other team deal with her. You cannot let the game end with your superstar watching the biggest moment happen away from her. So yes, coaching matters, execution matters, turnovers matter, but none of that erases the officiating. Because when Boston is removed from the game by questionable charge calls, Indiana's structure changes. When Clark gets hit and does not get the whistle, Indiana loses chances. When one team is allowed to be physical and the other team is punished for trying to match it, the entire game tilts. And that is why this loss feels bigger than one night. The Fever are not just trying to win random regular season games. They are trying to build around Caitlin Clark. They are trying to become a real contender. They are trying to prove this roster can survive when Clark does not have a superhuman game every single night. But how are they supposed to do that if the standard changes every time the game gets physical? How is Boston supposed to dominate inside if defenders can fall backwards and get rewarded? How is Clark supposed to keep rewriting history if opponents are allowed to wear her down off the ball, grab her, bump her, and then still escape the biggest calls late? That is the real story. Caitlin Clark made history. Aaliyah Boston called out the way the game was officiated. Indiana lost by 2, and the refs became the center of the whole conversation. The Valkyries got the win, but the Fever walked away feeling like something was taken from them. And honestly, after watching the way this game was called, it is hard to blame them. Because Clark's record night should have been remembered for greatness. Instead, it will be remembered for the whistle. So now the question is simple. Did the Fever lose this game, or did the refs take it from them? Drop your verdict in the comments. And if you're still watching, comment rigged record, so I know you saw the whole breakdown.
Here's Johnson to Clark. Fires for 3. It's her first one of the night. Force another turnover. Clark, the quick pass, whips it right to Cunningham. I mean, look at, she had to thread that needle right in front of Gabby Williams. Inside a minute left to play here in the first half. Mitchell driving, will toss it up, count it.
My God, bro. Oh my God, is all I can say about this game, man. It's like a minute and some change left in this game. About to get it pulled up for you guys right now. Caitlin Clark just turned the ball over. The crowd gotta be getting to Caitlin. But what's more importantly is these damn WNBA referees doing what they do. Altering the damn game. I mean, flopping is all over the place.
Caitlin Clark just made WNBA history. But somehow, the Indiana Fever still walked out of San Francisco with the worst feeling in basketball.
Wow. To say that was a tough watch, that would be an understatement. We got nothing we asked for, and we got everything we didn't want. The offense looked atrocious. The chicken with the head cut off offense looks bad. Stephanie White had Caitlin Clark off ball more tonight than anything we've seen so far this season. Not only off ball, but Caitlin Clark was left on an island all by herself all night long.
Because this was supposed to be the night Indiana proved something. This was supposed to be the night they walked into Golden State, beat the Valkyries again, and showed the rest of the WNBA that their offense was not just exciting. It was serious. Instead, the Fever lost 90-88. And the part that makes this one sting is not just the final score. It is that Caitlin Clark reached a milestone no guard in WNBA history had ever reached this fast. And Indiana still let the game slip away.
We stayed up for that? Question mark? Yeah, we did. Oh, Aaliyah Boston. Can we just keep it real? Are we seeing $6 million worth of basketball out of Aaliyah Boston? I'm just wondering. I'm officially saying it out loud. I mean, Lord knows, like I say, I'm hanging out in the Ben Daniel watch party stream. I got to tell you, Aaliyah Boston takes a lot of heat in there. And as she should. Takes the last shot. Had multiple opportunities to do something in this game. Nah. forget about it. I'm still not exactly sure what offensive philosophy Stephanie White's got going on. If Caitlin Clark does not, once again, I'm going to say it, if Caitlin Clark does not take over a game, they lose. And by the way, Raven Johnson should have been on the floor a hell of a lot more tonight. Plain and simple. I mean, Raven Johnson should have been on the floor more tonight than she was. Kelsey Mitchell, yikes.
Clark entered the night sitting on 497 career assists. She only needed 3 more to hit 500. And when it happened exactly how you would expect. Not with a quiet pass, not with a basic swing pass, but with Clark seeing the floor 2 steps ahead of everybody else, hitting teammates in rhythm and turning a regular possession into a moment. By the second quarter, she had reached 500 assists in just her 59th WNBA game.
Tonight, we gonna talk about it, man, in an iconic fashion. She ended up making her 500 assists to Sophie Cunningham, but the referees is still in the show. Just ultimately still in the show. Whatever it was today is shit on Caitlin Clark Day. I don't know. That's what I'm feeling like. But overall, team stats is horrible. Shout out to Raven Johnson. She showed up. Kelsey Mitchell, don't never pass the damn ball. I mean, they was beating her ball out of the damn arena. Every time she got the ball, they just knew she was finna shoot the ball. Like, why? They know you finna shoot it. Pass the damn ball, Kelsey. I mean, my goodness. 24 fouls called on the fucking Fever tonight. Excuse my language, bro. 19 calls were now 20 on Golden State. I'm furious right now, bro, because that's how bad this game has been. Stephanie White put Caitlin on the ball. Stephanie White put Caitlin off the ball. Like, damn, Stephanie, make up your mind. Did Caitlin Clark set majority of the damn third quarter? This was just buffoonery. Just buffoonery, bro.
That is not normal. Sue Bird, one of the greatest point guards ever, previously held the mark at 82 games. Clark did it 23 games faster. That is why this game should have been remembered as a Caitlin Clark celebration. But Golden State had other ideas, and that is where the story turns. Because the Valkyries did not treat this like Clark's record night. They treated it like revenge. Just days earlier, Indiana had beaten Golden State 90-82. Clark had 22 points and 9 assists in that game. Aaliyah Boston was dominant. The Fever controlled the second half, and for the first time, Indiana looked like they had finally solved this matchup.
What a game. The Indiana Fever have finally beaten the Golden State Valkyries, and this game, you could cut the tension with a knife. It was chippy. It almost felt kind of like a powder keg that could explode at any moment. There were a lot of fouls, and each team was given 2 techs. That is 4 techs for the entire game, including one that Caitlin had no idea about. Actually, Stephanie White also had no idea about, and they talked about it in the post-game presser.
Happened in that chippy moment with Solana at halftime that led to the double text.
I was just trying. Oh, did I get a technical?
You did.
Oh, no way. That just makes sense for the rest of the night, so I'm not surprised. Wow. Wow, I could have got ejected. I should have been a little safer in the second half. Okay, well, guess I have some fines coming my way. And probably right. Wow, you're paying a lot tonight. Well.
But in San Francisco, Golden State flipped the script. They did not panic when Indiana made runs. They did not get pulled into a track meet. They did what good defensive teams do. They made the game uncomfortable. Before tip-off, this matchup already had a simple identity. Indiana came in as the highest scoring offense in the league, putting up nearly 94 points a game. Golden State came in as the team allowing the fewest points in the league. So this was not just Fever versus Valkyries, this was pace versus pressure. Clark's passing versus Golden State's discipline. Indiana's firepower versus the one team built to drag them into a fight. And by the end, Golden State won that fight. The Fever actually had chances. That is what makes this loss frustrating.
My goodness, dog. They had 37 total rebounds so far, Golden State Valkyries. Bro, just they had 29 defensive rebounds again, bro. They still giving up a lot of defensive rebounds. I don't care that they had 27. Why are we giving up 29? Why are we giving up 29? And for the life of me, why do the referees hate Aaliyah Boston so much? Because I don't know, guys. Look at this. Look at these plays right here. Let me get this pulled up because this game is finna be over, bro. This game is finna be over, bro. I'm hella mad. Look at this. Look at. How the hell can we win when they look at this flop? You ain't even get hit. She ain't even get hit in the head, dog. She ain't even get hit in the head. Y'all see this? Bro, this has been all day. This has been all day, bro. I don't know what it is. Caitlin Clark just cannot get in rhythm there at the Chase Center for the life of me. She had 2 crucial turnovers. Oh, my God, man. I'm going to hear about this on Whitlock tomorrow, bro. I mean, my goodness.
This was not a blowout. This was not Indiana getting run out of the building. This was a 2-point game, and those are the ones that stay with you. Indiana trailed after the first quarter, but responded with a strong second. They put up 30 points in the quarter, pushed back against Golden State's physicality, and went into the second half still very much alive. But every time the Fever looked ready to take control, the Valkyries answered. A stop, a tough bucket, a loose ball. A possession where Indiana needed calm, but Golden State created chaos. And in games like this, chaos is usually bad news for the road team. The fourth quarter became the difference. Golden State won the final period 25-21. That might not sound like much, but in a 2-point game, it is everything. That is 1 empty Fever possession, 1 missed rotation, 1 rushed shot, 1 defensive rebound that does not get secured, and suddenly Clark's historic night becomes a footnote inside a loss.
All type of different looks. They had several players. I mean, Caitlin might have seen like 4 or 5 different defenders this game, bro. I mean, I'm damn near lost for words, y'all. Like, I'm trying my best to get through this video, man. How many points Caitlin Clark got right now? Caitlin got 16 points. She made all her free throws. She had 4 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 steals. 3 of 12 from the field. 2 of 6 from three-point land. Now, the Indiana Fever was shooting 44% from 3 going into the half. But at one point in this game, Golden State Valkyries went on a 13-2 run, bro. 13-2 run. So the Indiana Fever dropped all the way down to 32% from 3. 32%. They was at 44% going into the half, dog.
That is the brutal part. Because Caitlin Clark did her job as a playmaker. She made history. She kept the ball moving. She gave Indiana enough creation to be right there at the end. But the Fever still could not finish the job. And this is where Indiana has to ask the harder question. Are they just exciting, or are they ready to be ruthless? Because exciting teams can score 90. Ruthless teams close the game. Exciting teams create highlights.
44%. And these damn referees, my goodness, man. I mean, no, the commentators, this has been a horrible game. Just a horrible game. They shot 29 of 70 from the damn field. Just, my goodness, bro. My goodness. They had 11 blocks. A majority of them blocks was on Kelsey Mitchell, bro. Caitlin Clark looked pissed. Just pissed this game. I can't blame CC, man. So right now, they're doing a timeout, a booth review or something. I don't know, bro.
Ruthless teams get the stop when the arena is loud and the other team smells blood. The Fever have the talent. Nobody is questioning that. Clark changes the geometry of the floor every time she crosses half court. Defenses stretch out further than they want to. Passing lanes open that do not exist for other players. Teammates get cleaner looks because everyone in the building is staring at number 22. But Golden State showed the blueprint again. Make Indiana work. Make Clark see bodies. Make every pass, every catch, every entry, every screen feel just a little more difficult. And if you keep it close late, force the Fever to win the ugly possessions. That is where Indiana still has to grow. Because this was not just about one game in May. This was about what happens when the Fever run into a team that does not care about the hype. Golden State did not care that Clark was making history. They did not care that the Fever had beaten them days earlier. They did not care that Indiana had the more explosive offense. They turned it into a possession-by-possession test, and Indiana came up 2 points short. But here is why this loss will get attention. Caitlin Clark's records are becoming so normal that people almost forget how insane they are. Fastest to 1,000 points. Fastest to 500 assists. Already changing how teams defend. Already carrying the attention of the league every time she plays. And now she is doing things faster than legends. But the Fever are entering a dangerous stage. Because when your superstar is making history, the expectations change. Close losses are no longer cute. Moral victories are gone. When Clark delivers a record night, Indiana cannot afford to waste it. That is why this game matters. Not because the Fever lost by 2, but because they lost on a night that should have belonged to Caitlin Clark. Golden State stole the ending. The Valkyries got the win. And Indiana now has to sit with the same uncomfortable truth. Caitlin Clark can make history. But the Fever still have to learn how to finish. And if they do not, nights like this will keep turning from celebration into regret. If you're still watching, drop History Wasted in the comments.